اللهم صل على محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we will begin today with Quran, followed by Hadith al-Kisa, shortly followed by a speech, then questions afterwards. We have a section for the ladies on the right side with a covering between the men and the women. So inshallah, if there are ladies who would like to come and ask questions to the Sheikh, Sayyid Hassan, I apologize, I don't want to botch your last name, Rizvi. Sheikh Sayyid Hassan Rizvi, who is our honored and esteemed guest today. So if you guys would please welcome him and welcome the Quran with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لم يكن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب والمشركين منفكين حتى تأتيهم البينة رسول من الله يتلو صحفا مطهرة فيها كتب قيمة وما تفرق الذين أوتوا الكتاب إلا من بعد ما جاءتهم البينة وما أمروا إلا ليعبدوا الله مخلصين له الدين حنفاء ويقيموا الصلاة ويؤتوا الزكاة وذلك دين القيمة. إن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب ومشركين في نار جهنم خالدين فيها أولئك هم شر البرية. إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات أولئك هم خير البرية جزاؤهم عند ربهم جنات عدن تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه ذلك لمن خشي ربه. صدق الله عليه العظيم.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام. قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له عيدك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأعطيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال فقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله أتعدلني أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد عدنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدا، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتعدلني أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد عدنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. اللهم فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فاقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، وتعدن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء. قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصيي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتعدل لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملن جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ عبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يعلمني ما يعلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مضحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمس مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتعدنني أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد عدنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مضحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد عدن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تعدن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، فإنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة النجية، ما ذكر خبر هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جم من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي: رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة النجية، ما ذكر خبر هذا في محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جم من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله هما، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين، أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So I think I'll be more comfortable walking around than sitting on the table. Is that all right? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. So I don't want to do a speech. I mean, they told me do something. Don't just open up for Q&A, because if I open up for Q&A right now, honestly speaking, how many of you actually are going to ask a question? There's going to be that like 20-minute awkward silence, right? Okay, so I have to do something first. So while I'm saying these few things for the next 5 minutes, this is where you come up with whatever questions you have. So I want to just share with you. Some of you know me, most of you don't. So I just want to share a little bit about my background. So when I was growing up, I grew up in a typical Shia household. My parents, they tried their best to, teach me about, the school of Ahlul Bayt and, pray like this and fast and, do all that stuff. But I didn't really care. I did everything just so that, my dad would beat me up. That was pretty much the only thing, right? That's all that mattered to me. I even had this trick where, so at, Maghrib time, my dad would usually he would pray in the hallway, and I'd, pray in my own room. So at Maghrib time, he'd come and knock on my door and say, okay, it's Salah time, it's Namaz time, you have to pray now. I said, okay, fine. So I'd be watching TV, because back then, this is when people still, watch TV, shows would come on at that time, and if you didn't watch it at the time, it ain't gonna come again for like another year, right? So you had to watch it at that point. So I'd close my door, I'd turn down the volume, and my dad would be reading, and then he would pay attention to see if I was actually praying or not. And then when he would hear the volume of the TV, he would start knocking on the door again, like, hey, are you praying or not? I said, yeah, sorry, I'm about to start now. So then I would lower the volume all the way, and I would sit right next to the TV. And then what I would do is, because I couldn't lie, I had to tell him that I had to pray, because I knew he was going to ask. So I'd wait for a commercial. Yeah, I had to watch those commercials too. And it was much longer than like YouTube commercials. Actual commercials for like TV shows back in the day were really, really long. But they happened to be just the amount of time for me at my speed to pray Maghrib and Isha. So I'd wait for the commercial to start, I'd jump, pray Maghrib and Isha real fast, and then I'd be done. And then I would just go and continue on. I mean, that's all Islam really meant for me then, right? There was no real value for it. I didn't really care. I just did it, again, because I just needed to tell my dad I did what I had to, and now you can leave me alone. So it wasn't until, I think, college that, I started really thinking about, what's the point of religion and Islam and all these things, right? Most of my friends growing up too, they were non-Muslim. So, they didn't, whether I was Muslim or not, they didn't really care. We went out, we hung out, we played games and stuff like that. So, we didn't talk about religion and politics. None of that mattered. So pretty much in college, I think up till my probably maybe sophomore, maybe junior year, I didn't really care. None of this religious stuff mattered to me. And actually, I was borderline atheist. I was pretty much done with Islam at that point, and I was like, I don't even want to do this stuff anymore. What's the point? I'm praying. What does God care if I pray or if I don't pray? If I fast or I don't fast? What's the point? He doesn't care, so why should I care so much? If this whole religion's about, just doing all these actions, and if you don't, you go to hell, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do that anyway. What's the point? None of this stuff makes sense. All the questions I had when I was a kid too, I would ask, these ulama who would come, and they couldn't really answer it either. I would ask about, why do we beat our chests in Muharram? Why is everybody crying like this? Like, I don't get it. And they would try to explain, it didn't work. Or, I'd ask questions. At least, I don't know about you guys. So when I was growing up, I was told, we're not allowed to play chess. And when I was growing up, I loved chess. And then when I was finally told, you can't play, because back then, our family was following Sayyid Sistani, hafadahullah. And, I was like, okay, well, why can't I play chess? I'm not gambling. I'm not hurting anybody's feelings, except when I beat them. Like then, yeah, I hurt their feelings. But, what's the problem? Why can't I play? And I got, reasons that didn't make sense. People, like even speakers that would come, and all the elders in the community, they'd be like, yeah, Yazid played chess in front of the head of Imam Hussein. That's why you can't play. So I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, so if Yazid does something, then that means I can't do it? And they're like, yeah, that's the whole point. I'm like, okay, well, Yazid liked poetry. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you guys recite poetry all the time. Does that mean you're going to stop that? And of course, that's when I got a slap in the face, right? Because I was asking too many questions. So anyway, that's why, I asked all these questions. Nothing was getting answered. And then that's why pretty much in college I was like, you know what, I think I'm done with all this stuff. But luckily, at that point, I had met a few people that were able to explain the stuff in a way that made sense. They were able to say, look, we have proofs for why God exists. Everything here about, why we do what we do. You just didn't get a good explanation when you were a kid, and you can't blame your parents for that. They didn't really know how to speak to you. You can't blame all these scholars that were coming from, overseas, these immigrants. They didn't know how to, speak your language. Because I was born and raised in New Jersey. And most of the scholars around me when I was growing up were all coming from, Iraq or India or Pakistan or whatever. So they didn't understand what I was going through, right? So it wasn't until I finally got to sit with people my own age in college and other speakers who really understood my background, what I was thinking, and they explained stuff properly. I was like, okay, you know what? This religion makes sense now. And then I started researching a lot more, and then somehow, I don't know where, I ended up in Qom, in the Hawza, and that's a big fast forward. But yeah, otherwise, it was this close to pretty much just leaving Islam altogether. I was like, you know what, there's no point. But sometimes Allah puts the right people, the right things in your path, in your way, so that your life doesn't really get messed up. And we're usually not the reason why it happens. Like for me, I think it was because of my mother's du'as. They say that mother's du'as are the most powerful thing. And she was always the one praying, I hope, Hassan, you come back and you do what's right and this and that. I was like, okay, mom, whatever you say. But I think it was her du'as in the end that kind of, helped me out. The reason I'm saying all this stuff and giving you my background is because for a lot of you, again, I don't know all your backgrounds, this is the first time I'm meeting most of you. I have a good understanding of a lot of the problems in our communities over here. Now, this is not me hating on the communities, but we have to understand that, our parents or whoever we came with when they came from overseas and they landed over here and they tried to set stuff up, they tried their best to do whatever they thought made sense, right? So whatever they were doing back in their home countries, whether it was Iraq or Iran or Afghanistan or India or Pakistan, wherever they came from, they took that same thing and they put it over here. They didn't know any better. And they figured everything would work. But now the problem is they're looking at all these youth, and there's people my age, the generation above me, like my older brothers and sisters, people right below me, not your generation, but the generation between you and I guess. And a lot of them are leaving Islam. They have a lot of questions that are not getting answered. And there aren't a lot of opportunities for them to kind of figure out what Islam's about. Or to even, why do we even care about religion in the first place? So I'm saying this because I want you to understand that there are people who actually do care, and they want you guys to try to get access to all the stuff that you need. If you want to get closer to Allah, if you want to understand Islam, there are resources available. But a lot of the times, it's not really in the way that you want. So you have to come sometimes kind of speak out and say, what kind of stuff do you want? So some of the things that we've been doing in other communities is we've been doing things like movie, I was talking about Batman, Superman, and stuff like that last night if you guys were here, right? So in some of our communities, we started doing movie tafsirs. Right? Rather than tafsir of Quran or explanation of this dua, we said, look, there's all these movies and TV shows which have a lot of meaning behind them. All right? That's stuff that some of you guys are interested in. So we started having sessions on that. Like how many of you have seen, how many of you are into MCU, like Marvel movies and stuff? Yeah, a good amount of you, right? Are you all caught up? Every one of you seen at least Infinity War, Endgame, last 3 Spider-Man movies? Yeah? So a few weeks ago, the last time I was helping out with the Sunday school in Orlando where I'm from, we spent at least 2-3 sessions just talking about Spider-Man and his character growth. We talked about Thanos and whether Thanos is actually an evil person or not. How many of you actually think Thanos is evil? Only one? The rest of you like him? Oh, you didn't watch it? Okay. Inshallah, when you catch up, then you can attend our special tafsir classes. But even something like this, I was in Dallas for a youth camp last week, and part of that, we actually went to go see the new Batman movie, and then afterwards we were discussing that. So there are ways where the religious stuff can be made interesting, but we just got to be a little bit creative about it. And sometimes when the elders are trying their best, and again, they have the right niyyah, they're trying their best to help everybody out, but they may not know what interests you. So you kind of have to come forward on your own and say, you know what, I want to do this at the center, or I'd like to do this, or maybe we should talk about this kind of stuff. I think that'll help them give the ideas. And you know, I know a lot of the organizers here, and I'm pretty sure that they are open to doing that kind of stuff. So think about what interests you and how you can try your best to improve your life using that stuff, right? So hopefully that kind of thing makes sense. So if there's any questions, I guess we can open it up. If you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So the questions could be about anything, right? It can be about personal issues that you have, not like super personal issues. I don't want to know all your personal life, but you know, things that you might have questions about, something that's still confusing for you. Maybe you can share an idea that you might have, like, you know, like we were saying before. Maybe you're like, you know what, I wish we could do this in the community. Do you think that's a good idea, right? That's something we can brainstorm. Because if you've got good ideas, I can take it and bring it back to Orlando, and you know, I can try it over there too. Or anything else that you know you have in your mind.
I have one.
Okay.
So tafsir, like movie tafsir is based on hadith, or tafsir movie by movie?
It is a good question. So it depends. So if you're talking about Marvel movies, well, actually, so you can do it different ways. You can do tafsir of movie to movie. So how many of you, okay, most of you are into Marvel and DC, right? How many of you like Marvel better than DC? Movies, at least. Okay, yeah. Most of you know what you're talking about, okay. So the rest of you like DC movies better than Marvel movies? Or you guys haven't even seen that stuff? Okay, fine. So sometimes I compare Marvel versus, oh, he's gone. He asked the question and he left. So sometimes you can compare Marvel and DC movies. One of the reasons why Marvel movies are better than DC movies is because in DC, the characters are plain, they're boring, like you don't care. So you're thinking about like Man of Steel, and then Batman v Superman, and then the new Justice League that came out, right? Both the regular one and the Snyder Cut. In all those movies, nobody cares about Superman. Who cares? He's not a good character at all. Henry Cavill's a decent actor, but there's no, to say in cinematography, there's no character development. We didn't really care how he grew up. We didn't see any struggles. We didn't see anything from him. So who cares? But, and now I'm going to spoiler alert, but it's spoiler alert because it's too bad if you haven't seen Endgame by this point. There's a reason people are like, it was a big deal when Iron Man, you know, died at the end, when he was the one who did the snap and won, right? When he defeated Thanos and his army. Because we've been watching all these movies with Iron Man from the beginning. Iron Man 1, 2, 3, and Civil War, and in at least the first Spider-Man movie. So he's been in everything. So you've seen how he was this arrogant guy in the beginning, and then finally at the end, he's the one who made the sacrifice. So you saw him like go through these changes. So whether you think about it or not, when you're watching movies like this, you think about it to yourself sometimes, subconsciously. Like, you know, sometimes I'm the arrogant one, and maybe at the end of the day, I can be the one like Tony Stark, like Iron Man, and I can make the sacrifice, and I can make the change at the end. So sometimes you see these things in movies, right? So you compare, like, okay, the characters in DC, you can't really connect with them. But in Marvel, you can connect with anybody. Like those of you who are in high school now, you can connect with Peter Parker. Right? You can see the stuff he's going through, right? He's this bullied nerd in school, but he's got, you know, his secret life, which once they finally find out about his secret identity, now he's like the most popular kid. And a lot of us would think about that stuff too. You know, I wish I had powers. I wish I'd be popular and everybody knew me. So you can compare that kind of stuff too. Now, hadith comparison, yeah, sometimes you can bring in a hadith which talk about the same concepts in movies. It just depends. Yeah. So there's your answer, even though you weren't here listening to it.
Thank you, Malana. I had a question regarding your introduction. Apart from like the scholars not being able to answer your questions, what would you say are like the biggest factors that drove you away from Islam towards atheism? Like if you think back about maybe pivotal points in your life, or like, you know, things that our youth should be careful of, or like some dangerous things that kind of drove you towards that direction that they should be careful or, you know, cautious of?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So this is normally where, when I think about it, this is where the hadith and then even the movie stuff lines up, right? So normally the reasons why anybody, including myself, end up kind of just getting confused when we're growing up, one is sometimes it's a lack of proper tarbiyah, like learning Islamic concepts when we're growing up. You know, again, my parents, they tried their best, but you know, they didn't always get everything right? So they tried, and yeah, they did their best. But again, when I had questions, they couldn't answer them. And usually it was, you know, just do it because I'm telling you. If if you don't obey me, then, I'm going to, whatever. And same thing, I had to go to Sunday school. The Sunday school there was taught with, all the uncles and the aunties in the community. And I would ask them questions, and they couldn't answer it. So I was like, this is just boring. Everything about religion was just boring. Where's the speakers over there, right? Okay. Everything about religion was just boring. There was nothing interesting. The only time I would be interested is, okay, if they had some, like Eid fair or a carnival or whatever at the center, all right, then I'd go. But it's not like I actually cared about the Islamic stuff that was happening. There was nobody to explain it to me in an interesting way, right? Or in a way that made sense. Even though I did have questions. Again, I'd asked, one speaker that came, I remember, who actually ended up being my first teacher in Islamic studies, Maulana Big. When I was a kid and he came to our community, I asked him, okay, I understand God made everything, but all right, well, who made God? And I was like 10 or 11 when I asked that. And the speaker just couldn't address the question. He's like, I don't know how to answer you. Come back in 5 or 10 years and I'll try to answer you then. So just, that idea of proper Islamic education wasn't there for me, right? And I think I really needed it, and it didn't happen. The other thing was, again, having some sort of interesting stuff with Islam, because generally speaking, religion is boring. Again, it's just, if we're taught that it's a bunch of rules, who wants to just, can you imagine ever just learning a sport and they're like, okay, I'm just going to teach you the rules and that's it. Okay, just stay in bounds, and, if we're playing soccer, right? Stay in bounds and don't touch the ball with your hands. That's it? That's what the game is? Just stay in bounds and don't touch the ball with your hands? That's boring. No, you want to see how it's played, you want to enjoy it, it's supposed to be fun. And religion is supposed to be that too, but not everybody knows how to make it interesting, and they didn't really make it interesting for us when I was growing up. That's another one. The third is that the people, the friends that I was hanging out with, they didn't care about religion too. And the people that you're around with matter a lot. Even if you care a little bit about, being better, religion, and all this stuff, if the people around you don't care at all, they're going to they're going to screw your life up. Because obviously, if everybody else around you thinks religion's a joke, they make fun of it, they don't care, then you don't want to be the odd one out, right? If, for example, in your group of friends, if somebody starts making fun of Allah or Islam or the Prophet, whatever, everybody else is laughing. If you're the one who's like, oh, excuse me, I don't think we should be, making fun of Allah and Islam like that, you nerd, shut up, what's wrong with you, right? That's what they're going to tell you. So they're not going to want to hang out with you, and they're going to kick you out of their group. So most of the time, because of peer pressure, self-esteem, we're like, you know what, I'll just laugh at their jokes. Maybe I won't make the joke myself, but I won't say anything. I just will laugh. But that will quickly just turn you into making the jokes too, right? Because you're going to end up wanting to be better than them anyway. You want to be the one with all the attention. So the people that I was with, even when I was hanging out with Shia Muslims, same thing. They didn't really care about religion at all, right? It was just, when we hung out, we were playing games, go to the movies, and that was pretty much it. We didn't care about that stuff. So I think that had an effect too. If I had hung out with people that cared about religion, that Islam was important to them, and we could actually make something fun out of it, then I think that would have helped me out a lot when I was growing up. And then that's probably why I had I had Muslim friends growing up for a little while that I'd see at the center in the programs. I'd see them at Sunday school and things like that. But I was going to public school, right, 5 days a week. So most of my friends are from there. So very quickly, all my Muslim friends were like, just once in a while I'd see them. It was my non-Muslim friends that I was hanging out with all the time. So obviously, because they don't care about Islam and things, then they were having an influence, right? Because it was just about having fun. We, same taste in music, same taste in movies, same taste in games. That's all that stuff that mattered to us. So there was no room for growth or conversation or anything like that, right? So, and then obviously as I got older and older in college, they're the ones who were staying my friends, not these Muslim kids that I grew up with. So I just continued on like that forever. So it's definitely, one is Islamic education or upbringing was pretty much non-existent. Islam was not made interesting. Questions weren't being answered. And the people I was hanging around, they just didn't care as well. So when you have all these factors combined together, and then again, public school too. Public school is probably the worst place for Muslims to go right now. Public schools right now are trying their best to make sure that Islam or religion itself means nothing to your life. For them, all they care is about teaching you, about making money, about being obedient, so you go out and you work. That's all they care about, right? They just want you to go and make money for, some corporation. That's all these public schools care about. And the stuff that a lot of teachers now are trying to do. Phoenix is a bit more Republican, right? Arizona. So maybe you're a bit better off here than other states, but now a lot of the stuff is becoming, a lot more individualistic, a lot more liberal. They want you just to love everybody, and everybody's okay no matter what they believe. Well, no, some things don't make sense. And we should be, proud of the fact that we believe in truth. Right, we talked a little bit about this last night for any of you who were here. Right now, a lot of people are talking about, you have to declare my pronouns and address me like this. Or I can be, if I'm a guy today, I can be a girl tomorrow, I can be whatever gender I want. This is the kind of crazy stuff people are throwing in our faces, especially in public school and even in the workplace. We have to have answers for that, right? And we should be able to say, look, you can do whatever you want in private, but I'm not going to address your delusions. I'm not going to say your delusions make sense, right? Like if right now, all of you, if I was talking to, let's say, like, oh, everybody say salam to the pink elephant over here, right? You'd be like, we're not saying salam to the pink elephant, and Hassan, you need to go see somebody, like something's wrong with you, right? You wouldn't give in to my delusions. So our problem is, over here, they want everybody to give in to everybody else's delusions. Well, we don't believe in that. People who have these issues, we need to try our best at least to either keep away or to help them out in some way. Now, I don't mean go around and tell them you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. That's not what I mean. But we at least need to know what our position is on this stuff, right? Whether it's, all these political issues, all these religious issues, we should be firm in the fact that, yeah, we believe in God. And if you don't believe in God, that's your problem, because God is the most obvious thing in the world. Everybody needs a religion. If you don't have one, something's wrong with you, not with me. If you want to go out and drink and do drugs, there's something wrong with you, not with me. I don't have a problem. If you're so boring that you need something else to make yourself fun, okay, that's your problem. That's not my problem. I'm interesting without the stuff. I don't know about you. Or if they're saying, LGBTQ and everybody else, all these, numbers and letters and all this stuff, like, look, we don't give into our desires. If you want to give into your desires, you go right ahead and do whatever you want in private. But we believe in, the traditional form of marriage because that's the right way to do it. So we have to be firm in these kind of ideas. And sometimes, again, it's very difficult because the whole world around us is telling us that we're crazy. But it's, unfortunately, they're the ones who really need, kind of help and to be told what is right and what is wrong. So hope that makes sense. Question? No, it's all right. If they don't have it, it's fine. All right, so let me ask you then, while you're thinking of more stuff. So how many of you, some of your dads might be here, so I don't know if you want to answer the question with, okay, so all the dads have to look away. They can't look at the answer. But so how many of you guys are actually interested in Islam? No, but you can be honest. No, don't yalla him. Lying is haram, okay? You can't. Look, when I was their age, I wouldn't raise my hand. So I don't want them to lie about it, right? Okay. What is so interesting? Why do you like Islam? What's so interesting about it? I'm telling you, for me it was boring. So why are you so interested in it? What makes it interesting? Or what do you like about it? Yeah. Huh? It's weird? You like it because it's weird? Okay, that's an interesting answer. Islam is weird. Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes weird things are interesting. That's a nice answer. I like that. Why else? Or if you think that right now, again, you don't think it's that interesting or it's boring, you're only doing it because you don't want to go to hell or whatever, or because your parents are making you do it, well, what do you think? Why do you think that's the reason? Why do you think that's the case? Why is it so boring? Yeah. Yeah, whatever you want.
So the question is asking why Islam is interesting?
Yeah, for you specifically, yeah.
From all the religions and all the things I've searched through, there is no example I've ever seen like the example of the Ahl Bayt. No one draws more love in my heart than them. Is that even just hearing the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu alayhi brings a smile to my face. And then the second is that without religion, without Islam, existence is obsolete. The reason for waking up, going to work, or doing anything becomes non-essential and useless, because anything within a system has a purpose. Thus the system itself must be bound by its own constitutional rules. So saying a system has no, in itself, the whole entire universe has no purpose, renders it useless, because within anything in a system, anything that loses functionality is thus kicked out. Like, you know, you hear natural selection, evolution. It does exist. There is some things that we do evolve in some extent, maybe not species to species, but, you know, same with the system. If it didn't have a purpose, why is it existing? And that's where the Ahl al-Bayt and religion fit perfectly within that answer.
Awesome. Yeah. So definitely some people, they really connect with the Ahl al-Bayt, right? As they see them, they hear about their life story, and they really, you know, connect with them, right? You know, sometimes, at least for me, it was always difficult connecting with them when I was a kid, because, look, if I'm watching a movie or a TV show, all right, I can see, you know, like I said, Iron Man or Peter Parker or any of these guys, I can see their life story. I can see what they're thinking. I can see their actions, and it makes sense to me. For the Ahl al-Bayt, when I was a kid, I mean, yeah, we heard these stories, and okay, you know, Imam Ali's bravery in battle, like, okay, that's nice, but sometimes when we don't have the visuals, like, I don't know, it's very, very difficult. Or if you don't connect with the stories, or you don't hear it too much when you're younger. So, I know, like, I wish that, I know that they finally are making all these series, like they have the Mukhtar series, and they have the series for Imam Ali, and Imam Hassan, Imam al-Ribat, like they're starting to, you know, put these things together, but I don't know how youth-friendly they are right now, right? I think if they were able to do stuff, like if we were able to actually get like a, you know, a proper like Hollywood director to actually look at the lives of, you know, any one of the Ahl al-Bayt and make a proper movie out of it, that, you know, would attract people, I think that would actually be really helpful. But I mean, for me, I'd actually like Tarantino to direct a Karbala movie. I think actually it would be really good, but that's actually a little, might be too much for some people. Probably won't be family friendly either, but Hassan. Anybody else? Yeah.
So, the question for why you are interested in Islam, right?
Yeah.
Didn't answer because I want the youth to, you know, to hear their, you know, answer. But to me, first of all, I feel and believe that Islam giving me the answer for a lot of like vague or confusing question that make my life like make my life not clear with some questions. But when you believe in Islam and read in depth, you will find these answers. The second, Islam make my life organized. Islam put everything in the right place. Don't leave your life disorganized. Give example, imagine we go outside and the vehicle, you know, driving anywhere without any rules. And it hit people everywhere, and that people driving fast, people, you know, hit the red light.
I mean, it sounds like you're describing Phoenix right now.
Yeah, but if you live in an area, it's very organized, very controlled.
Yeah.
Everyone knows where he should go, and what he's supposed to be is way different. Also, with too many things now we see in our life, how those people who don't believe in Islam, their life has no meaning. He doesn't know if he's man or woman or he's what.
No.
Here he even if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like create him and he knows his, you know, body feature, but he still doesn't know where he should go. But if he believe in Islam, he will find the answer. Why he should like believe if he's man, he's man, if she's woman, she's woman, and what the idea. It gives my life real meaning. Also taking care like for my family. How it's my family important and how I must care about my kids. Even if they like make me mad, angry for some reason.
Are they here?
Yeah.
Stop making your dad mad.
So still still I am, because of Islam, told me I am a father, I am responsible. It's not like here, when that, so I am none or I am atheist, whatever, whenever he like to leave, leaving, he leave everything behind. That make no sense. But with Islam, no, it's different. Too many things, but this is the most, so far what I can't remember,
No, sounds very good, yeah. A lot of people, you're right, they're really confused right now and they have no meaning. Some people specifically have said life is meaningless. Like, you know what, because I can't figure out what the meaning is, the only answer is that there is no meaning, so I can go do whatever I want, right? So, and I'm saying this is exactly like the Joker sort of mindset too, right? That's what the Joker said, like there's no rules, it's only anarchy, just do whatever you want. So that's what a lot of people are, they're basically turning into Jokers right now. They're just like, yeah, do whatever you want, create anarchy, go ahead, it's fine. Why? Because there's no hell, there's no heaven, when we die we're nothing, so it makes sense for them to do that, right? If you don't believe in anything after this, meaning if you believe that nothing happens after you die, then obviously a person's going to do whatever they want over here because it's the only life they have. So yeah, I'm going to do whatever I want, I'll steal, I'll cheat, I'll lie, I'll do whatever. But when somebody recognizes and realizes, no, there is something much, much greater afterwards, and that's actual real life, and we go there for eternity, then this thing's a small amount. And this gives, it actually has meaning for you, right? But you actually have to, think about it in those terms. Awesome, thanks. Anybody else want to chime in? Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Are we putting everything on the table? We're being 100% honest?
That's your discretion.
Right.
How much
Well, my
you
parents are
open up.
not here, so it's okay.
It's not a therapy session. You can't go everywhere.
Right. So what brings what made Islam interesting to me was I didn't really look into Islam till about midway through high school. For me, it was like I was just getting through school. I was just doing me, seeing what the kids around me were doing. I'm trying to fit in, average teenager. But I came to a conclusion like, all of this is boring. My parents are here telling me I need to, be Muslim, I need to pray, and then thankfully I asked, why do I need to do this? And I actually started doing my own research and finding out why. I guess what was for me was I looked into Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in Islam is the more I try to question it, the more answer I found. Like, for example, I'm like, let's say I came to a conclusion, okay, maybe there is no God. Science is the answer, for example. I want to look at Islam, of course, I look at these videos and say, the more back you go, this world cannot exist from nothing.
Yep.
There always has to be something. So the more you ask, there's always going to be something that started that all. That something comes down to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can give it any name you want. I think that was the first step for me. And then I'm like, okay, this makes sense. There is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a creator. Someone created this. Has to. And then from there, I kind of grew my education. And that's when I found Ahlul Bayt. I already knew about the Ahlul Bayt, but that's when I actually opened my eyes. And I learned about Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, Imam Ali alayhi salam, Amir al-Mu'mineen, and I think for me it was Fatima Zahra alayhi salam for me. For some reason, she was the one that really brought me into Islam. It was something about her story and her mystery, the unknown around her and the things that she went through, standing up for her husband, standing up, and all the rights that we have showed that the freedom, the equality, everything that the world is trying to come to, that's what brought me the interest, is because this is what the whole world needs to look at. This is what the world needs to see, not the stereotypic world. I found that the most intriguing, and from there on is just history. Yeah. I do have a question though. Maybe this is like for kids and everyone. Did the Ahlul Bayt ever have a comedian side? I just want to
sense of humor.
Sense of humor.
Yeah, I mean there are a few narrations, ones that are like very, very famous, so to speak. They had a sense of humor. So like the most famous story that they usually tell is they say that once Rasulullah and Imam Ali were sitting, and I think they both had plates in front of them. They were eating dates together, right? And they both had plates in front of them. So they would take a date, eat it, and then put the pits down. So first, what Rasulullah would do is, every once in a while, when Imam Ali wasn't looking, he would take his pits and put it on Imam Ali's plate. So the pits started stacking up on his plate, and then there was nothing on Rasulullah's plate. So then Rasulullah says to Imam Ali, he says, Ya Ali, he's like, you know, you must have been really hungry. Look how many dates you've eaten, right? He's like messing with him. He's joking with him like that. You know, a small friendly joke. So of course, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he responds back to Rasulullah. He's like, Rasulullah, I think you were hungrier. You ate the pits too. So they had this kind of friendly play back and forth. There was another time where I think some old lady, I think came to Rasulullah, sallallahu alaihi wa sallam, and she asked, Ya Rasulullah, am I going to be in heaven? Like, will I show up like this? Will I be in heaven? And he's like this? No, definitely not. And then she started freaking out. She was crying, but Rasulullah was like, look, I said that because there are no old people in heaven. Everybody, they show up in like a youthful, like 30, 32-year-old form. That's why. I'm not saying you're not, going to heaven. So sometimes they, mess with people a little bit like this, right? Not like too much. They weren't like pranking people, like stuff like that. But, just like small stuff here and there. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody has any questions?
So I too was asking some similar questions that I actually went a little further and actually did a lot of research about whether the Ahlul Bayt, what was their form of joking. I came across various things like the Ahlul Bayt wouldn't joke with lies. Anytime they would joke, they would only joke with the truth.
Yeah.
So they would, like saying with the woman is that he's not technically lying. He's telling her the truth. You're not going to show up like that. You're going to show up as youthful young lady. But I was going to ask. I've read that same hadith about the dates, but I've seen it mostly narrated from the Sunni side, and the problem is today is that there is so much that you could get caught up with. It's just there's a healthy criticism is that you want to question at least whether because you always have the definitive. The Quran is 100%. It's your code of which you based off other hadiths. Is that if a hadith ever contradicts the Quran, then it's false. So likewise, the Quran says وَإِنَّكَ عَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, and so on, and it highlights the attributes of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when I hear a hadith like that, I think that why would Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam lie? It's not that I don't think that I don't know if it whether it happened or not. Maybe we're narrating wrong. I don't know. I'm just saying what is the authenticity of the hadith, and I just want to understand. In that case, it sounds I would never say Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam lied. There's no way he would. That's why I'm saying I know that as a definitive, unless he was in a state of taqiyya, that would be the only time. So in this case, I wanted to ask this question a while ago. I never actually got a chance to. Thankfully, you brought it up. But can you explain the authenticity? Because usually I hear this from Sunnis who narrate it. I've even seen I think there's a book they have that specific narration, and I failed to find it in Shia books, and that might be the where it lacks. Because if it obviously comes from Sunni books, then we have to question the authenticity of all their hadiths. Generally speaking, obviously the Dirkhom is the exception. But can you elaborate?
Yeah. So I've never researched it myself in that sense, so I don't know the authenticity, so I can't comment on that. I mean, sometimes we have, but especially when it comes to something like this, normally ulama won't be super strict, right? Because it's not like they're passing a fatwa based on this idea. But yeah, so for what you're saying in terms of the akhlaq of it, if somebody considers that an instance of lying, then they may say, look, based on that principle where we know that they wouldn't lie, if you consider what was happening there a lie, then fine. But I mean, I don't know if I wouldn't actually consider that an instance of lying, right? He's just saying, oh, you ate a lot. And Mahdi was saying, no, you ate more, right? So I don't consider that lying in that sense. I don't know if it would actually violate that principle, but it's not a big deal. I mean, there's other narrations with jokes and stuff too. So yeah, well, I never looked into the authenticity, so I don't know. But even if it is, let's say, only in Sunni books, for example, Yeah,
I'm
it's
saying
possible.
that that's the only one I've found this far. I'm
Yeah.
limited to my capability of knowledge, so I
Sure.
may be wrong. But like,
No, it's
at
worth
least-
looking over again. I guess I can
Yeah.
take another look.
And
Inshallah, when I
I've
get a
seen
chance.
like within the Quran itself, in chapter 9, verse 65, where it talks about those who joke and jest.
Yeah.
And it says, "Are you mocking Allah and His Prophet?" So I don't want to misquote. I would rather read it to you. Did you want me to read it or
What?
the actual verse?
No, no, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, particularly that verse in connection with joking may relate to that. But I just, generally speaking, I mean, I've seen the whole like, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam only joke with the truth, which is something I mean, I've seen that on the Sunni side as well. So that's why I'm saying I don't know. I have to look more because I need to hear both sides and have like proper evidence before I can reach a conclusion, or at least have a marja and give like a deliberative ruling on such a thing. But I haven't found that much.
I mean, the rulings are pretty much the same, right? I've never seen a difference in ruling. It's just, you can't lie at all, whether it's in joke or otherwise. Or you're not supposed to lie unless there's taqiyya. So
You don't want to get your tongue used to lying,
Yeah, of
even
course
if it's
not,
just a joke,
yeah. So you shouldn't be joking and lying. That's something. Yeah. Does somebody back there have a question? No. If not, if there's nothing else, then let's see. Yeah, we're almost at 8:30. Yeah. Okay. If nobody else has any other questions or comments or anything, then I guess we'll wrap up. Okay. Hopefully the session was beneficial. I know a lot of you didn't ask questions, and that's fine. I understand. Again, I would have been in the same position when I was growing up too. Hopefully, how many of you are coming to the picnic tomorrow? Okay, so most of you are. Okay. So hopefully we'll see you there, inshallah. Where I think they told me I'm supposed to give another speech, and I'm trying to get out of that because I'm tired of speaking. All right? I think too many speeches going on, not enough activity. So, what, question? Or are you just pointing at him? Do you like his hair? He's just calling out his boy. That's it, yeah. Okay, thank you so much for your questions, your comments, and sharing different points. Hope to see you all tomorrow, inshallah. If I don't see you tomorrow, then if this is the last time I'll see you, thank you again for the invitation to the community. It was nice being with you guys. Hopefully, inshallah, I'll get to see you again in the future. If you have any feedback from me, let me know. Inshallah, share. I'm always trying to improve too. If you have any ideas, what's the thumbs up for? Huh? Me? Thumbs up? Ah, thanks. Agreeing with me? Oh, thank you. Hassan. Oh. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. If not, then next time, inshallah, we get a chance. Okay. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.